specifically for parents, I think it's wildly significant for parents to be vulnerable. Like some of my best moments with my dad are when he was like, oh, I did that stupid thing you're doing right now once, and here's how and just telling me the story of how that panned out for him is like, oh, like I think every kid needs to know their parents' lore. I don't know, talk to them about the 90s or something, like forever ago, you know, it was a long time.
Elijah Lamb had dreams to be famous at a young age. Now he's an internet-famous Bible teacher, public speaker, and content creator. Today, I ask him how he handles the pressure of having millions of eyes on him, and we talk about the interview that almost made him walk away from it all. And even though he's far from being a parent, he has great advice for parents too. Not gonna lie, I was impressed. I'm Jeanne Harrison, and this is Grace After Hours. Do you know what your Enneagram is?
I'm a 4-wing 5.
Yeah, I knew it.
I gotta be different.
Yeah, I hear you.
I do. It's bad sometimes. Breaking out of that. Well, a little. I like to feel different. It's nice.
You are different, Elijah Lamb.
Yeah, that's where I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm my own, I've invented my own genre of person. Anyway.
Mission accomplished. Okay, you started your own TikTok at...
Yes, well, okay, I started my own YouTube channel when I was 8 years
okay.
old. I was like my dad's iPad
wow.
posting. I mean, it wasn't any good, but it was like, I have an audience. So that was a blast. And I just I made YouTube videos like my whole childhood. And then I got pretty good at it. And then I was too embarrassed, so I deleted it all. And then TikTok came around. And my friends, I used to go on my Snapchat account all the time. And nobody else does this. This is not a thing that people do. I was just really weird in high school. I would go and I would do, for like an hour, would just like film bits by myself. I would film bits by myself.
On your Snapchat?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, all the time. I would film all these stupid
of what?
in the mirror, like just
of yourself.
yeah, like some weird songs playing, and I'm wearing a strange outfit, and like nobody knows why. All my friends are like, "What's wrong with you? You're an oddball." And then the summer of 2019, I was like, "Oh, I probably could preach the gospel on here." Now that there's like a few 100,000 people looking at me, and then it just grew.
Why the gospel?
Well, it was like I always wanted to be famous, and I wanted to do it like a sort of a secular way. Yeah. And once I actually got there and had all these followers, I was like, wow, this is all vanity if I don't do something more meaningful with it. So that's where, like, I have lots of friends, even friends that are believers, who do social media, they do comedy or whatever, and their faith isn't really a part of it, which I totally respect. But for me, I lose my mind.
Do you remember the first time you were noticed, like, out and about?
The first time?
Or the first few times, kind of when someone was like, oh my gosh, are you Elijah Lamb?
Yeah, I don't remember, like, all of the earliest times, but I do remember when I went to Passion Conference in 2020, which you can ask my friends. They will verify this information. I was sitting in my seat the first night, and people found out where I was sitting, were coming down to my seat to talk to me and take pictures of me and stuff like that. And I was just like, I think the next day I was in service and I started weeping because I was like, oh gosh. Well, I'm looking at Mercedes-Benz and there's 80,000 people in there or whatever the number, there's 65,000. And I'm like, oh, so that's like 10% of this stadium is 10% of the people I have immediate access to with the stuff that I say. So I started to weep. I was like, God, I don't understand why, but this is awesome.
So it's like a grateful, like.
Yes, 1,000%. Like it was like, I can't believe I get to do this. This is unbelievable. I'm not worthy of this kind of thing. And so then meeting all those people of Passion was like an out of body experience. It was like, it made it all real.
Yeah, real people, not just.
So then it was the process of whenever people would recognize me in front of my friends, they were like, I knew you did stuff, but now it like.
You mean it validated to your friends?
Yeah.
Like, you're doing something.
They were like, holy crap, this is serious.
Yeah.
Like people know who you are and they love you. And you like having people walk up to me in front of my friends and be like, hey, yeah, you changed my life. My friends just being like, oh, holy smokes. Yeah. Like this isn't just, because it was kind of like funny and cringy. Like to be on TikTok, everyone was kind of like, why are you doing that? But then somebody walks up and they're like, yeah, I gave my life to the Lord on you did a live stream. And they're like, I gave my life to Jesus on it. Wow. That for me was just like, oh, I didn't think about the fact that there was real people on the other side of this. That's kind of weird. Yeah. But so, yeah. That's
awesome. You know, I'll be really honest with you. I think Pastor Mike is the first person who told me who you were. I mean, I knew your dad, but he was like, Elijah's like doing all this big stuff. He's getting really, really big. And I think the first thing I said to him was, that's a lot of pressure. Mike, like for someone his age, it's a lot. How do you cope with, you have people who love you, maybe even too much, like not worship you, but you know what I'm saying? And then you have people who make fun of you. You have everything in between. You have to constantly put out content, or do you feel that pressure? How do you deal with it?
Yeah. I think when I was 16, 17, 18, the pressure I felt it all the time.
Yeah.
Because I was like, the weight of the world is on my shoulders. Gen Z, it's me and no one else can help them. Like that's how it felt. And I just came to realize it was really dramatic. So I don't know. I just think time with the Lord, I really, when I started to get popular on social media, it became my whole personality, and it became like the root of my spirituality. Is that
What do you mean?
Like I'm like, oh, I'm a minister now. Like I do ministry now, and that's like the most important thing about me.
So it did in a good way, became like
no,
a bad way.
It was like a obsessive. You know, it became like all that mattered to me, and it was like the only reason I thought I mattered, which is not a good perspective. So I've gone just through, I guess, years now of learning from the Lord what it means to just be God's kid, and just for him to be my pops is what I always say. I don't know, people, every time I address the Lord now,
Pops.
I feel like a weirdo, but I'm like, hey, Pop. And that's just how I want to talk to him, because I'm like, I got to get into my head that you're my father in the most intimate way imaginable, and I'm your son in like the realest way. But it was hard. Like it was like I was in the middle of that journey, and I'm like, I'm a 16-year-old kid with lots of issues and brokenness, and then boom, millions of people looking at you. Yeah. So then it's like, it just becomes your world. You think your world gets bigger, but your world shrinks.
Yes.
You come to the center of your own world, and the things you do, you feel like it's all that matters, and it's all anyone on the internet is thinking about. And then it's just like, oh, I'm not a big deal.
Well, but
that's kind of what it was.
Yeah.
Like in the grand scheme of things, I'm not. Or like it started out with like, oh, I'm not the only big deal, and then now I'm kind of like, yeah, I'm not a big deal. Like,
do you still look at the negative? Like, do you?
I don't get a lot of negative.
Do you ever Google yourself and like see things of someone making fun of you or saying something?
No, I feel like I do so much making fun of myself.
Yeah, that is not a huge
I don't
thing.
like, if you take yourself too seriously, then people can make fun of you.
Yeah.
But I don't. I feel like, so I've never, aside from a couple years ago, I was on this Vice interview, and well, I got, man, they were mean. It was a bunch of angry, like millennials.
Sink in? Did you, or were you?
Well, I was sad because it was like, I was like on vacation with my family when the video came out, and then boom, tens of thousands of comments being like, this kid's brainwashed, this kid's doing it for the money, this kid's in the closet. And it was just like, what is going on?
Yeah.
What did I do? What did I open myself up to?
Yeah.
What did I do to deserve this crap? And so that was like, dang, that sucks. But otherwise, I was more so just, for me, it's not like I feel bad about myself. It's like, I wish I could just sit down with every one of these people and explain
your heart.
Yeah, because they're confused.
Did it ever give you a moment of going like, I'm done with this, forget this?
Yeah, when I was like super depressed.
Yeah,
it was
depressed because of it, all the pressure.
I mean, depressed because I was like traumatized and not outside very often, and I barely made it through high school because of that.
Yeah.
I mean,
like getting in your own head a lot, you mean?
No, I just wouldn't. I just would never sleep. So I would sleep in class a lot. I was up my AP Art History class my junior year, the day of the exam, because I had been borderline like truant. Like if I had missed 4 more classes, I wouldn't have passed. And I would sleep when I was there, and I wouldn't do. My teacher walked up to me and was like, "I really hope you pass," with a sadness in her eyes. And then I got a 4 out of 5, so I got the credit for it. Thank you very much. And now I vaguely know about 250 different ancient pieces of art. So
still,
thank you, Florida public education system. But anyway, so yeah, I just like would never sleep, never eat, never in the sun. And I was just very sad. And then you add on top of that, like mounting pressure.
Yeah.
And it was just, so there were times where like, I'm just never going to do this again.
Yeah.
And when it's your whole identity and this is who I am, this is what matters the most in my life, when it fails you, it's just everything around you crumbles. So it was my God for a while, which was disruptive to trying to tell people about the real God.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of gets in the way of that.
I would think that most people in your position probably, it has to at some point consumes them, maybe still. But I was talking to another influencer a little bit ago, a girl, who actually said that the more followers she got, the lonelier she felt. And it's the same idea of like shrinking. You think it's like growing, but really her world was kind of like shrinking down to just like, because nobody actually knew her. Do you feel like where you are now, you have an inner circle, you have people who know you, like who holds you accountable, who's in your life, not online, but real life?
Yeah. I mean, I have now a good group of older men that I meet with and pour into.
Are these guys you work with?
No, they're like in Los Angeles where I live. I'm really close to my pastor there.
Okay.
And then a couple other leaders and pastors throughout California that I regularly spend time with. So that's really important to me as far as the accountability thing. And then I just have a really solid group of friends.
Tell me what you're learning about now. What is God teaching you? Anything you're passionate about? Who are you reading? Who are you studying? Like,
I love to read.
Do you?
Yes.
You haven't been to seminary.
No.
Non-traditional path to getting where you are. Like, how do you learn?
Yeah, I'm guiding a lot of my own reading.
Okay. Like who?
Reading the important ones is kind of the goal right now.
The important ones, like you read old stuff?
Yeah,
you mean?
lots of old stuff. I just finished working through some of like the first century patristic fathers, first and second century. So like Clement of Rome, Ignatius of Antioch. Right, that's the right, because there's also Ignatius of Loyola. It's Antioch. And a couple other different writings from that time. But otherwise, I'm just reading a lot of scripture. So I'm learning from that as well.
Yeah.
That's probably the more significant portion of my like time spent reading.
Can I ask you what you would say if we flip the script a second? Because you talk a lot to young people. What would you say to parents? As I think about hearing you even talk about high school, for example, and you kind of have alluded to like, I was a little bit like in my own head, like just the dark seasons. I'm raising teenagers. I know that, gosh, it's like a very fragile season of life. It feels like, what do you feel like someone in that age group needs the most? Is it authenticity? Is it like simplicity, a groundedness?
Sure. I think it's wildly significant for parents to be vulnerable. Like some of my best moments with my dad are when he was like, oh, I did that stupid thing you're doing right now once, and here's how and just telling me the story of how that panned out for him is like, oh.
Normalize, yeah.
Like, I think every kid needs to know their parents' lore. Like,
yes.
You gotta just start telling them random stories about your life.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I don't know enough about my parents' lives because I'm like, would you tell me something weird that happened to you sometime?
Yeah.
I don't know. I need to feel like you've lived a life. So, because all the kid knows is one day they existed and you were there.
Yeah.
You know? So, I don't know. Talk to them about the 90s or something. Like forever ago, you know? That was a long time. That's my favorite joke to make. I love making that joke. That's my favorite. So I think that, and just that just comes with being really vulnerable.
Yeah.
Like, I think one of the number one things, you don't think this, but you have to be able, like, I think it took me years of my life to catch on my own that my parents are human beings.
Right.
That are, like, stressed.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes I love to go back in my mind and be like, oh, all the times I would, like, be arguing with my parents or whatever. Like, they were just, like, humans, probably having a tough day.
It's like there's a balance there. We have to be honest and vulnerable, but we don't want to also act like we don't know what on earth we're doing.
Yeah,
there's
like, of course, you, like, show them, like, you play the strong role, but also...
Yeah.
I just, at some point, I had to catch on to the fact that my parents were just human beings.
Yeah.
That was... You think that comes naturally, but it totally 1,000% doesn't. Because your parents are the human beings in your life that feel least like normal human beings. Because it's just how it feels. So I think kind of rationalizing with them and I would just say talk to them a lot.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything that would really be more helpful than just ask your kid a ton of questions. So.
Why do you keep doing what you're doing? Do you see yourself continuing to do this sort of thing? Like.
Yeah, until God pulls me somewhere else. I think, well, I'm doing it because I just love Jesus. And I think it's important to make that distinction. I didn't do it for that reason for a long time. It was like I loved working for him. But now it's just I love him. And all the ministry stuff is at its core for me. For other people, it's like a demonstration of God's love for them. For me, it's like I'm experiencing God's love in the moment. And it's a way, like preaching for me is a lot of fun. It's always been a lot of fun because I love to talk.
Yeah.
Hence the microphone in front of my face, you know. I just love to do it. So you're never going to get me in a situation where I can have a microphone for an hour and I'm not going to be having the time of my life. It's just not going to happen because I love it. But then it was like, I have all this pressure on my shoulders, and then my whole identity became like, I'm a preacher. This is who I am. This is what I made. I'm just a teacher. And that's boring. That's like such a, just not it. It's just not.
Has it ever crossed your mind to like be a preacher in the traditional sense, to go get maybe some like extra, I don't think you haven't been to undergrad, right?
Yeah, no, I have like an associate's degree.
Oh, okay. Well, like, have you ever thought about like, although I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go to a traditional seminary, but I'm really content and happy where I'm at. And I'm having a lot of fun doing ministry in Los Angeles with just doing evangelism and discipleship with people there, because it's dark and people need it. So, I'm like preaching because I love the Lord. So now when I preach, like, it used to be, this is who I am, this is what I'm supposed to do. And then I feel like the Lord kind of pat me on the back and be like, this thing that you do is like not even in my top 100 favorite things about you. And I was like, oh.
I love that.
Okay. So it's because before then, my whole life was viewed through the dichotomy of like failure, success. Am I failing or am I succeeding? And am I doing what I'm supposed to? And it's all about how I'm performing and how well I'm living up to like my potential or something stupid like that. And God just being like, that is really not the point.
Yeah.
And he's super stoked to use me in things and super stoked that I'm like obeying him. But that's not like the core of things.
That's not who you are ultimately.
Yeah.
No.
And so now it's just, I love Jesus and I love being his kid. So
simplicity.
Bible.
I love it. Okay, let me ask you some rapid fire questions. You ready?
Yep.
What'd you listen to on the drive over here? What song? Music?
What song was that? I've been listening to a lot of Michael W. Smith.
Really?
Worship and Worship Again. Great albums. I mean, untouchable.
You do like old things.
Oh, 1,000%. Oh my gosh. That's like the one great thing we got from like late 80s, early 90s is that worship music was crazy.
Okay.
I could sing of your love forever. And that's a different band, but that one's great.
Favorite snack?
I like fruit.
Fruit?
Yeah, I don't.
Okay.
I try to stay away from that red 40 stuff.
Die. Sock, shoe, or sock, shoe.
Sock, shoe.
Agreed.
If you put one sock, one shoe, you're out of your mind. That is great. Like, imagine being with the sock and a shoe and the other one's barefoot. You're crazy.
Psychotic, right?
That's
a real
weird.
test for that.
That's very weird.
What would your pro wrestling name be?
Oh. That's awesome. That is weird. Okay. Holy smokes, I have no idea. I want to be called like the Reverend.
That's
come
a
out with
good one.
like a priestly collar, but like a
like
zombie
it.
reverend or something like
the
that.
Reverend.
Like,
Wait, yeah, that was good.
Yeah, I feel like that's good.
What's that character like?
Well, I come out and I have a really big cross, like a big relic,
and you beat people to death.
And then it's like holy water, but it's acid, and melt people's like skin off and stuff like that. But I think it would be a lot of like laying hands, like, you know what I'm saying?
I like it. Very cool. Best TV show you've streamed lately?
Oh, I just thought of another one.
Oh, what?
Anoint people with oil and then light the oil on fire. That is awesome. That is a good move.
I love it.
Okay, what's the next one?
Best TV show you've streamed lately? Do you watch TV?
Yeah, I mean, like,
you have a favorite show?
I'm not watching cable. Good grief.
Yeah, I know. I feel like it's streaming. Or
yeah, I'll stream stuff. Let me think. I'm always rewatching Psych. I love Suits.
I love Suits.
In California, you can practice law without going to law school.
Not a big deal. Mike Ross would be totally fine.
Yeah, I would. I love Mike Ross. I am Mike Ross. That's my exact personality.
I love Mike Ross. John Piper or John Mark Comer?
Holy crap! Can I Mighty Morph them and take
Aren't they
like
great?
a mixture?
Both, yeah.
Well, they're so different. Like, I get like John Mark Comer's little quiet voice talking about Portland and coffee, and then John Piper like can barely breathe, but he's talking about the glory of God. And I'm like, yes, this is awesome. I can't pick one of those two. I would take John Piper's preaching and John Mark Comer's writing.
Awesome. L.A. or
Build
Orlando?
Your pastor. Well, like, for living and enjoying life and being happy and existing in a way that anyone likes would probably be Orlando. But LA, as far as obeying God and being where He's told me to be, I'll be in LA. But if I had to pick a city that I enjoy more, it'd be Orlando.
What do you miss about Orlando?
It's smaller. I miss my family, obviously. I miss the weather. People think I'm crazy. I love humidity so much.
You like it?
I hate the dry with a passion.
Why?
So when I come home, I'm just like basking in the humidity. And yeah, I just love Orlando.
Awesome.
Sweet place.
Well, the Reverend, I appreciate you being here with us. Thanks so much.
Yep, thanks for having me.
Grace After Hours is a production of Grace Church in Orlando, Florida. Grace's mission is helping people take their next step toward Christ. Learn more at discovergrace.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, share it with someone you know and subscribe so you never miss an episode.